Bernstein. Thank you so much. I have something in common with Carlos. I don't know Al Bernstein. Thank you so much. This Hall of Fame is essentially for the great boxers who you see on this stage and others that are not here. It's built for them. It is their house. However, this Hall of Fame is very generous in the way it welcomes those of us who fulfill another function for boxing. And I take this as a supreme honor that I'm allowed to be a part of this place that is so special. It's a singular honor, and it's made even more special to me by the other inductees who are on this stage. I have a shared history with every one of them. And I cherish that. And with the exception, perhaps, of Mark, who is a little younger, most of us came into the public consciousness in the 1980s. So it's kind of, we represent that decade, if you will. And that was one of the great decades ever in the sport of boxing. And if you remember that decade, it was also a decade in which everybody had more fun than in any other decade. So it's possible that we're being honored because we survived the 80s. Did you say it's a fair statement, Joe? Anyway, we're here and we're very happy to be a part of this. There are, of course, as we've mentioned, 3 of the 4 kings are from the 1980s are here. Obviously, Tommy Hearns, who is being inducted, Sugar Ray Leonard just behind me, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler as well. I was so fortunate to get to announce a number of the fights involving these great men. It was an era in boxing that may never come again. It was so extraordinary. And in 1985, I had the privilege of announcing the fight between Tommy Hearns and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And I remember in that outdoor stadium at Caesar's Palace, and if any of you have ever been there, it's one of the most extraordinary settings for a fight ever. And when Tommy was coming out, I remember sitting there and thinking, how fortunate am I that I have this seat to call this fight, which you got the feeling would be a fight for the ages, and it certainly was that. And I tell you, and this is absolutely true, since that time, every single time we're getting ready for a fight and the fighters are walking in, I consciously try and recall that moment in my mind so that I can remind myself how fortunate I am to be sitting there calling these fights. And it's a great exercise because it reminds me how lucky I am to be able to chronicle the sport of boxing for all these great fighters. But with that good fortune comes a responsibility that every sportscaster and every broadcaster should take seriously. There are certain things that should never, ever happen, and I've made 3 rules for myself as a sportscaster to allow me to hopefully keep the respect of all these great athletes. Number 1, I never try to be bigger than the event I'm covering. Number 2 is don't ever disrespect an athlete, and certainly not a boxer that you're covering. And number 3 is being fair is always more important than being clever. Now, I'm confident that there have been a few times over the last 30-some years when maybe I didn't live up to all those rules. But I can tell you, I can assure you that those times were by accident. They weren't on purpose. My brief and not distinguished amateur career in boxing some 40 years ago taught me one thing, that it hurts to get hit in the head. And it taught me that boxing is not an easy sport to master. And so to be a professional boxer on any level, let alone how great these champions are, you have to be someone very, very special. Now, for a sportscaster to disrespect an athlete in any sport is, or to demean them is absolutely wrong. But to demean a boxer is criminal. And I hope that this honor today is some validation of what I've done in the past. But I will tell you that it energizes me in the future. It energizes me to try and do a better job, to do my job as well as I can, to chronicle the sport of boxing so that we reach out to new fans, as well as holding on to the base of boxing and make sure that this sport is explained to everyone in the right way. Now, this is not to suggest that I haven't had a few faux pas along the way in my career. I have. One of them came very early in the 1980s. In fact, I think we were in Britain's area, in Al Valenti's area in New England. We were at the end of an ESPN fight in the early 80s, and Sal Marciano was sitting next to me, and we were doing the close of the show. And normally when we got to the close of the show, once they started running video highlights, Sal just completed the end of the show, and I was never involved, and they never came back on camera to see us. Well, on this occasion, Sal started to talk over the highlights of the fights, and I decided that I was just going to leave because I was not needed anymore. Well, at that very moment that I was getting up from the chair, for some reason they came back on camera, just in time to catch me leaving. To which Sal Marciano said, "We'll be in Atlantic City next week, and that's Al getting a head start." I have made other mistakes, but not that one again in the future. Sal was one of the first of many talented sportscasters I've had a chance to work with. Men like Barry Tompkins, Steve Albert, Bob Papa, Dave Von Temple, and many, many others. And two of the very best I've gotten to work with are in this audience and on the stage here today. The first is a gentleman who is up here on the stage. He is, of course, you know him as a great, great champion in the ring, but he is also a fantastic ringside analyst. And I've never seen anyone come into this profession and get so good so fast. My friend, he's my colleague. I speak of Antonio Tarver. He's really a joy to work with. Another gentleman who's here is Steve Farhood, who you know from the Showbox.
Yeah.
Steve is industrious, funny, insightful. Steve, I can't read this next sentence. It's brilliant. That's the one. No, you know what? He is all those things, and he happens to be something else. He's a dear and loyal friend, and I'll tell you something. When I want to listen to somebody's broadcast boxing, he's the guy I want to listen to at all times. I want to thank all my Showtime colleagues. You know, in 2003, I moved to Showtime, and I ended up in broadcasting heaven. It's been the most productive and best time of my career, by far. And I thank every single one of my Showtime colleagues for coming. They have stepped up to the plate this weekend, chronicle the weekend, and make it very, very special to me. So I'm very pleased about that. And I want to mention two of the people that are here by name, not just because they're my bosses. A gentleman who's the executive producer of Showbox and the vice president at Showtime. He's maybe the most honorable and decent man I've met, both in and out of television, Mr. Gordon Hall. And another man who is the executive producer of Showtime Boxing, and I can sum it up by saying one simple thing. He's the very best at his craft that I have ever seen in my life. He also happens to be a valued and trusted friend, and he has helped make Showtime Sports, in my opinion, superb. Mr. David Davis. I'm honored to have many family and friends here, and Among them, the Daly family from Lake Charles, Louisiana, they're like a second family to me, and they have come to share this with me. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law, Joe and Kathy D'Onofrio, my niece, Melissa, and her husband, Sean, and my nephew, Scott. I think of them as second children to me. They're special to me and will always be. And my sister Amy, who is not only been the greatest sister to me, but she also has helped my career in a massive way. She's the managing director of my company, Bernstein Live, and does a spectacular job. And the only thing that's annoyed me about this weekend is all the great boxers that have met her seem to like her better than me. A little annoying, but she is wonderful, so I appreciate it so much. And he already got a shout out from Desmond Howard, which is pretty good. My son Wes, my 13-year-old son Wes, who is sitting down there, and my wife Connie, who mean the world to me. Now I know they're proud of me, but I can assure you I'm prouder of them. So I appreciate that. There are three people that are not here, that can't be here, but their auras and their spirits are in this room. One is my mother, who is a widow raising two children alone. Showed me that you can smash the barriers of life and you can succeed if you do your best. And then the other is my father, the second is my father, who loved sports and especially loved boxing. Now, I used to, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I used to sneak down the stairs in our house and sit just out of eye shot when my father was watching the Friday night fight. And I would listen to those fights. And I would hear the voice of the greatest boxing announcer then, the greatest boxing announcer now, and the greatest boxing announcer that there ever will be, the great Don Dunphy. I wanted to grow up to be Don Dunphy more than anything on this planet. And in 1986, he is the third person whose spirit hovers over this, for me anyway, hovers over this induction ceremony. In 1986, I got to meet Don Dunphy when we interviewed him. I interviewed him on ESPN. He became a mentor and a friend to me. It was like a dream come true. And I learned from him, and I got to experience who he was as a person. And he was a remarkable man. And when he died, the New York Times had this obituary. It said, Don Dunphy was an objective voice in a subjective sport. I hope that at some point, people feel that way about what I've done. I am not Don Dunphy. I will never be Don Dunphy.